All right, welcome. Thank you, Felicia, for the introduction. My name is Kelly Wayment, and I am here at the Silhouette Studio here in Linden, Utah. And I've got Autumn that's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions for me, she can feed those to me and I can answer you as we go along. And Michael's running our camera. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is what we're making. This is a little zipper pouch. So if you're buying it from Michael's, it's just the simple Artist's Loft zipper pouch. And it's kind of a plastic material. You can probably see a little bit of shine on there. So it's smooth. That's important when you're trying to apply just regular adhesive vinyl, is that you've got something smooth and not fabric. If you were doing a fabric pouch, you would use a different product. Heat transfer. So today with this smooth plastic pouch, we're using vinyl. So I've got this design that I will show you in the software in just a minute, how we can open this design. And if you don't want to purchase that design, I'm going to also show you how to do that with the text tool. So we've got these zipper pouches, and you will need vinyl of any color. I think a dark color works better on this clear kind of white pouch. So you can pick any dark color vinyl. You can choose a matte or a glossy vinyl. Either one is fine. And then just make sure you have some transfer tape. This Aura tape is my favorite. And I know Michael's sells a version of this Aura tape. It may have a different number. And that was all linked in the class materials. You'll need to have either some scissors or a paper trimmer handy. We'll need a ruler and some kind of scraper tool to apply the vinyl. This is the Silhouette one that's nice and small. It's good for small hands, but sometimes you want a bigger one, but you can find these scraper tools. I'm sure that Michael sells them. And then just some kind of weeding tool. And so this is the Silhouette hook tool. As far as the machine, today I'm using the Silhouette Cameo 5, and I am using the roll feeder, this little platform that comes with the machine. This is a simple enough project and small enough that honestly you could use any Silhouette machine. So you could use an older Silhouette Cameo, you could use a Silhouette Portrait. If all you have is a Silhouette Curio 2, you could use it, although I'm going to be showing directly feeding in and out of the machine. So Curio 2, you would need to already know how that works. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to get your roll feeder set up first. So with the Cameo 5, it has a little front cover. And all you need to do is unlock it. Let's see. Yeah, it's already in the unlock position, and then lift up and kind of out. So that exposes, for the roll feeder, it exposes these little grooves that we can use with the roll feeder. And you do not have to use a roll feeder. I find it easier if you're working straight from a roll, especially a long roll. The roll feeder is kind of nice, but you can do this project without the roll feeder. All right, you've got some lines that you're just going to match up on your machine against the roll feeder and just kind of lift it up just a little bit and tuck that in there. And you can see that that is now attached. Those slots match up perfectly if you've got your lines lined up. So that's the setup we'll do for now. And we'll jump into the software and then I'll show you how to actually load the vinyl next. All right, do we have any questions before we get going? And this, I see there quickly, it says you didn't realize you need a Silhouette machine. You do need some kind of cutting machine. So I'm showing with the Silhouette. If you just like this pouch and want to put vinyl on it, you can use any cutting machine. It's just the process for the machine. I'm going to be showing how to do it with the Silhouette. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, are we seeing the Silhouette Studio software? Okay, great. All right, so first we're going to, let's see, actually, forgot, I wanted to show you one more thing before we move into the software. We want to actually measure the area we have on the zipper pouch. So that's why I've got the ruler or tape measure. You just want to be able to know how big to make your design. And so I've actually flipped my pouch over so the logo isn't in the way. And I can just measure. Let's see, so that's 11 inches wide and 6 inches high. But of course, you're not going to want to go completely edge to edge. So you would take off a little bit. So we'll say we have, and if you wanted to do it maybe in just this side that doesn't have the logo, but you still wanted to put it on that side, you would just say you've got, about 6 inches of space that way and about 4.5 inches that way. So really our shortest measurement we're working with is about 4.5. So we fit on that area, and then we know we can go quite a bit wider, maybe 9.5 inches. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And we'll go back to screen share. Okay, so now we know how much area we've got, and we're going to open the design. So if you want to use this exact design that I've got on this pouch, it is number 54871. If you don't want to purchase that design, you just want to do this whole project without purchasing a design, I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But if you did purchase this design, you can just type in your library tab up here, 54871, and that will bring it up here. So anything showing in your library, if you want to open it, you just double click. And that opens it into our design screen. And so here you see this is on a 12 by 12 inch area, and that's definitely too big. So let's go ahead and get our page set so we know exactly the material we're using matches the area we have to cut. So machine, you can just click the little drop down over here on your page setup window. If you aren't seeing your page setup window, it's just this top right panel over on the side, on the right side of your screen. And so machine, I've got the Cameo 5. You can set it for whatever machine you're using. You can ignore the feed type if that's showing. Cutting mat, we are going to go with none. So if you want to use a cutting mat, you can set it as a cutting mat. If you're not using a cutting mat, you definitely need to say none as your cutting mat, because that determines how far into the machine your material will feed, and we want it to work exactly. Okay, so media size, I'm working from a roll, and so I'm going to go ahead and leave my width at 12 inches, and the height doesn't really matter. I could leave it at 12 inches. I could set it longer because I know I'm working with a roll. The width is the most important part because it is a 12-inch vinyl that I'm using. If you're using 9-inch vinyl, you can set your width over here to 9. All right, so I'm going to leave it at 12 by 12. Make sure you have this box at the bottom checked for show cut border. That shows you where your boundaries are. So you have a little bit less cutting area than the actual media itself, just so it doesn't get too close to the edge. So when I check the box for show cut border, I know I need to keep my design within this cut border. All right, so now I've got this design and I want to make it smaller. Remember, we had about 4.5 inches of height that we could use to fit on there. So you can either drag it with a corner handle to make sure it stays proportional, or you can use your little scale options up here. So make sure that your little lock symbol is showing for lock aspect ratio. And then the width, when we just make sure your design is selected so you can see that. The width we can just, or the height, sorry, height, we can type in as 4.5 inches. That was the tallest we wanted for our space. And that changes everything proportionally, so it works well for us. All right, so now when you're doing vinyl, it's really nice to use weed lines. And when you're just using the basic edition of Silhouette Studio, and often it's just really easy to do this, you just draw your own weed lines. That's going to kind of divide the design up and make it easier to weed when it comes time to take away that extra vinyl that we don't need. So over here on the left, we've got this draw a rectangle tool. So grab that and then come over to your screen and just click and drag your mouse so it draws a box around and leaves a little bit of a border on every side. We've just got this box around. And then we're going to draw some lines. So over here again on the left, you've got line tools. So just click on this straight, draw a line. And let's see, make my screen zoom in just a little bit so you can see better. Okay, so I've got my line tool and I'm going to the edge of this box that I drew, and I'm just going to the left edge in between those words, and I'm going to hold my shift key and just drag a line straight across. The shift key makes it go completely horizontal. If you need to nudge it a little bit to make it not too close to any of your design, you can just use your arrow keys on your keyboard. So go to the left and grab your line tool again, and we're just going to draw a few more lines. Oops. There we go. And one more line. Holding my shift key to make it drag straight across. And then just take one more look and make sure that those lines are not cutting into my design at all. All right, and also I was going to show you, if you don't want to use this design before we get too far away, I'm going to use my text tool to draw this, to just draw or type this same phrase. So over here on the left, there's a little letter A for the text tool. So click on that, and then you'll have a cursor that'll pop on your screen. And I'm going to hold my caps lock and type the same thing it has. I just want to make beautiful things. See if I can spell right while I'm on camera. Nope. Just move my, insert my cursor there and make sure I've spelled everything correctly. Okay, so now that I've got this typed, I'm going to click off to the side. I could, if I'm still in text edit mode with this flashing cursor, I could just drag and select. A lot of times I'll just click off to the side and click once to select it as an object. Then I can go over here to the right side for my text style panel and a font that looks pretty close to this one is just Arial Black. So let me see if I can find that. Okay, so if I just start typing in the little box up here for the textile window, it'll find that font that I know exists, and then I can go down here and finish selecting. So click on that. And then I can just see, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to show the full page, my zoom tools. Well, they're kind of hidden with my little zoom. header, let's see. Okay, so fit to window. I can fit my full page again. Okay, and so then with this, I would just go with my textile panel and I can change my line spacing to make those a little closer. I can add breaks into the lines. So double click and get this flashing cursor again, and this selection box has this blue bar on the right side. And so I can just drag that in and it will make those lines. It will start to split up words if you get too close, but if you don't get too close to your words, then it will leave the words and pop them down to the next line as you get closer in there. So you can make that look however you want, and then you would just do the same thing. You can even, once you have this, if you like those taller letters, usually we resize everything with a corner handle. If you don't use a corner handle, you can actually slide this and it warps the text, but you can see this makes it taller like those original words from the design. So we're actually squishing it. Lots of fonts do not look good when you're squishing it like this, but this font, the Arial Black, actually does look pretty good. So that's how you can make it look more like this design that you can purchase. You can just use it with your free text tools. And I think Arial Black is a fairly common font, but you can find other fonts that look similar to this that are big and bold. And then you would just, again, use your rectangle tool and your line tool, your line drawing tool, to just make those weed lines. And you'll see once we actually cut this out how those are so helpful. If you've never used weed lines before, it'll make more sense in a minute. Okay, so there's our two options. I'm going to go ahead and group this. So I can just do a right click and group. Do you guys want me to cut them both or just one? Any comments on that?
Why not do them both?
All righty, we've got 12 full inches we can work with. So let's do that. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. And I could stretch these even taller, make it closer to those 4.5 inches, since it can still be skinny like that. So we've altered that font quite a bit, but on this particular font, it still looks good. All right, so now I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. And we will get this vinyl loaded. All right, so back to the roll feeder. Again, if you don't have this roll feeder, if you don't have the Cameo 5, but you do have a machine that cuts vinyl, then this is only particular to the Cameo 5. But I just slide out this little platform here on the roll feeder and then lift up these little end caps and lift this. It's kind of a feed through slot. So that's where we're going to feed our vinyl through. All right, so I've got my roll of vinyl and I'll roll it out just a little bit. It is nice if you have vinyl that's on a roll, kind of flatten it out. So if you've got either a table, probably can't see what I'm doing here, but I will roll my edge. I'll even roll it. I've done this before. Well, I'll actually use my edge of my roll feeder to kind of straighten that out just a little bit. It just works a little nicer if that front edge is flatter instead of curled. And you don't want to give too much pressure on this. You don't want to snap anything on your roll feeder. So I'm just being really gentle, just trying to get that front edge a little flatter. Okay, so now I'll put my roll feeder in there, or my roll in there, and slide this up to the 12-inch position. It's got kind of a mark there. Then I'm going to feed it through this slot. I'm usually working at a different angle here at home, so, and then this can get slid over. There's a little extra piece there in that feed through slot that will kind of hold your vinyl in place. We'll slide that up and make sure this is snug. We want to make sure that our roll feeder, the pinch roller, is in the right position to actually grip that vinyl. So make sure you're lifting up this little top tab, and then you're going to position your roller. So your left edge of your vinyl here is with the loading line. You may not be able to see it, but there is a loading line that you line your left edge with. And then make sure that your right roller is completely gripping that vinyl. If the vinyl slides off at any point in the process, you're going to have problems. So we've got our left and right rollers in position. These are just little stabilizing pieces. I kind of spread them out evenly spaced. And then when I know that's in the right spot, I'm going to click, and it's up against my rollers, I'll just click the load button. And just take a little look and make sure that that looks even all the way across. If you are working from a roll of vinyl that maybe you cut with scissors, or it's a brand new roll, sometimes they'll be at a slight angle. You want to make sure that when you're working directly from a roll that you have trimmed off a perfectly straight front edge. So it's a perpendicular and goes in there and touching the rollers at the same angle. All right, so that is all set up, be ready to cut. So we'll go back into the software. Okay, and so we will go into the send panel. Upper right corner here, and that's where we can make sure that our design is set to cut. So bold red lines means it will cut. Anything outside this cut border is not going to cut. The blade will just lift up and won't cut anything outside those cut borders. So if there's something you don't want to cut with the Silhouette software, you just leave it off to the side and the machine completely ignores it. All right, so now we want to make sure that we have our correct media and everything set up. Oh, and also make sure that your machine is connected. So mine recognizes that it is connected, it's ready, it knows that the material is loaded. So the material, you can either choose vinyl glossy or vinyl matte. They start out at the same cut settings. They're the same thickness, so either one's fine. I'm going to show you how to do a test cut. But first, let's see, the automatic cross cut. Right now it's enabled. If you can see it, there is a dashed blue line across here. What that is it's got an automatic cross cut. So when it finishes cutting, it's going to increase the blade depth and cut completely across your vinyl to release it from the roll. And that's really handy, but while I'm doing a test cut, I don't want that on. So I'm going to turn that off. If you don't see it, it's here on just under those two carriages options for automatic cross cut. That's only going to show up when it knows you're using a media that is not on a cutting mat. So that won't show up if you have a cutting mat selected. Because we chose none as our cutting mat, that's why that automatic crosscut is available for us. Okay, so glossy vinyl is showing me the blade depth of 1 and a force of 10. And I am going to do a test cut. I'm actually going to move these down so I have room for a test cut because my test cut is going to be up here at the top left. Okay, so let's make sure our media is loaded. So if I just click test, it's going to cut with those settings that I have right now. So I'll click test, and you guys can watch what the machine does. It's thinking. Do you have any questions I can answer? For some reason, this is thinking. Let me switch back to the other page and then back. There we go. Hope that think.
Yeah, someone asking this is their first time seeing the silhouettes. They're asking what kind of materials you were using.
Yeah, so this is vinyl. This is Silhouette adhesive vinyl. Michael sells a lot of different vinyls, so I'm using the Silhouette machine. I'm comfortable with Silhouette brand vinyl, but the Silhouette Cameo, all the Silhouette machines will cut any brand of normal vinyl. All right, so we did a little cut up in the upper left, so I'm going to unload that. And I'm going to see if that cut well enough for me. So take it off the board, move it over here. Okay, so I'm just going to use my hook tool. And what I do when I'm checking my test cut, it draws a square and a triangle. So I usually like to try and pull the square away and leave the triangle. Okay, so that was not a very good cut. I could really tug and get the square away. And if I wanted to, I could really force that triangle to do that. But we don't want to be forcing anything when we're weeding. That's just a headache. And so I'm going to increase my settings to cut this vinyl with a little bit heavier settings. That roll had a little bit of a bubble in it, so I'm just using my scraper to get that bubble out. I'm going to load this again, same as before. Just kind of snug up all those pieces and make sure that my material is feeding in correctly. And this time, before I do another test cut, if I were just to hit the test cut button again, it would cut exactly where it cut before. That's the automatic position. If you want to do a subsequent test cut, you need to move your blade. So I'm going to move it over just with these arrows on the machine. And I'm going to move it down a little bit because right where that blade is where it's going to cut. It becomes its upper left corner of that square. So I'm going to move the blade down just a little bit and make sure that it's not going to cut off the top edge. So I have that repositioned. And I'll show you with a screen share again. So I'm going to increase my blade depth. And we have got some options. So if your blade is new and if your vinyl is new, a lot of times you can cut with your blade depth on a 1 and your force, I don't know, 15 is a common force setting that I use for a new blade and new vinyl. I have found that with some older rolls of vinyl, depending on the brand and how old it is, it tends to kind of shrink up on itself and get thicker. So if you ever have vinyl that feels thick, that might be the reason. And so that is the case I have here. So I'm actually going to move my blade depth to 2 and leave my force at 10. And I can increase my speed a little bit. I'm going to put my speed at 10. And so I've got that new position of the blade for the next test cut. And so I'm just going to put the test button again, and it's going to cut that vinyl into the new position at the increased setting. Okay, so we'll unload that again. And this time, when I pull away that triangle, that comes quite a bit easier. Pulling away the square and that triangle. It's not sticking, it's just kind of coming away with the vinyl. I don't want to cut it too deep because that makes the transfer not work so well. So I just need to make sure if I'm doing something really tiny, I know I'm going to be holding things in place. But that actually feels like a good cut. That pulled away really easily, and it wasn't any effort to pull those two pieces apart from each other. And so I'm going to leave those settings. Feed that in again. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have not used the test cut feature before, it's nice to be able to know how to test and how to do subsequent tests once you actually do change your material settings. All right, so that is loaded. It's in position to hold it while it cuts. Let me go back to my screen share. All right, so you can see those new settings are there, and I did move my material down, so it shouldn't be in the way of where that test cut was. And so now this automatic crosscut, you don't have to use it, but I'm going to use it just because it's cool, and I love that feature of the Cameo 5. So I'm going to check enable, and it's got this little blue dotted line that shows where it's going to cut that cut the vinyl off of the roll for me. So I'm going to turn off my screen share, but all I'm going to do is click send down here, and you guys can watch it cut.
And if someone create a similar craft with a design that's printable, how would?
So if you are using a printable design, you want to use, are they talking about using printable vinyl? It's a different product that you would use. And a lot of times you would do a print and cut process for a printable vinyl or any printable media. And that's a whole different class. We do have on our Silhouette YouTube channel, we've got a lot of print and cut videos that would explain that. But if it's printable vinyl, then you're kind of doing the same thing where once you've got it cut, you would do the same process of weeding away the excess vinyl. Print and cut is not a 30-second answer. So I recommend that you find some videos from Silhouette on our YouTube channel about print and cut. And I may have done one in the past on Michael's channel. I can't remember. I've done a lot of Michael's classes.
Really ask what is used as an so
Okay, so the question is there adhesive, or what do you use in adhesive? So this is adhesive, it's called adhesive vinyl because it has an adhesive backing already. You're going to see that it acts kind of like a sticker. So we're just going to, it's already got a sticky backing. We'll pull away the stuff that we don't want, and it will stick directly to the surface that we're applying it to. And we'll use transfer tape, and I'll show you how that works also. I generally don't like cutting a whole bunch of text with something that's not adhesive. So if I were to cut this out of paper, I would actually have to place every single letter or find some workaround to hold it in place while I added glue to the back and place the letter. So this is exactly the type of project that is perfect for adhesive vinyl because it has that adhesive backing already.
that's a question. Is there an easy way to cut lines if you don't want certain lines?
So if you don't want certain lines, like for this design in particular, if you wanted to change what it says, you can actually ungroup in Silhouette software. You can ungroup your design. Oh, here goes the automatic crosscut. It made that blade depth deeper, and then it cuts it off. And so when I unload it, that has cut that off the load of the design. So now I've got a really fresh, clean cut for the next time I use that roll. And then I can let go. Okay, the rollers have gripped that, and so I'm going to turn off the machine, press and hold, and that will release the rollers so I can get my vinyl out. Usually it will separate and it won't feed back through, but for some reason it grabbed it and pulled it back under the rollers. So all is well. Okay, I'm going to move machine out of the way. And I can answer that question really quick about if you don't want part of a design. And if you don't want the weed lines. Right, so this design over here that came on its own, all in one piece, if you wanted to adjust that and remove part of the design, like maybe you don't even like this little heart, you can see if it's available to ungroup. And this one is. So here's my ungroup button at the top, or you can use your right click and ungroup. And then this can actually ungroup again and release all those individual letters. So you could take apart this design and move things. Say you wanted to type that in a pretty font, the word beautiful, you could do that. You could just type something beautiful and change it to a pretty font and insert it into that design. So that's one of the things I love about the Silhouette software, is that you can, in most designs, you can manipulate it and customize it how you want. All right, so hopefully that answered that question. Let's go ahead and move on to actually weeding this and applying it to our zipper pouch. All right, so we've got our zipper pouch. I am going to go ahead and trim these two pieces apart. You can use scissors, you can use a paper trimmer.
And Kelly, for those who missed it, where did you get the design that you're using?
Yeah, so this design is in the Silhouette Design Store. So you can go to silhouettedesignstore.com. And if you just use the search function, the design ID number is 54871. Or you can search with the words, I just want to make beautiful things, and it should pull that up. All right, so here I've got my design. You probably can't see very much right now, but I'm going to pull the vinyl away. That's going to leave these letters and the weed lines. Oh, it's sticking to me. Okay, and so now our trick is to leave the letters in place and pull away all the extra vinyl. So that's why it's called weeding. It's just like in a garden, you're pulling away, pulling out the things that you don't want. So we want those letters to stay in place. So I'm just going to be slow and careful as I pull away this extra vinyl. Use your hook tool as you need it. Just go slow enough that make sure those letters stay in place that need to stay there. Pull the rest away. And a lot of times I will slide my vinyl back and forth as I wiggle it off of there. So that's one line. So this is why we created those weed lines. If you're just pulling off one section at a time, that is so much easier than trying to pull it all off and keep all those letters that may want to pull up. If you were trying to do that all in one go, it can get a little tricky to hold those in place. So this way, I'm just really working with one letter at a time because I made those weed lines. And even if you just want to draw boxes around there and not boxes and lines, however you want to do it, just so you've got some divisions created there. Weeding is pretty fun. Do we have any people out there that like weeding, that have done it before, have worked with vinyl and like weeding?
Lots of people saying they love weeding.
Good. I like weeding as long as I'm not in a hurry. If I'm behind schedule and have a lot of weeding to do, it's not so fun. Of course, I guess that's the same for any task, right? If you're running out of time, it's not as fun. Okay, so we've got those letters. We'll pull away that little test cut. We don't need that there. And make sure we get the centers of those letters out of the way.
And Kimberly's asking what is the best brand of vinyl?
You know, I think probably my favorite is Oracal 651. So Silhouette has their own set of colors with the Oracal brand that have some good colors, but you can also find a bunch of colors at Michael's that's Oracal. So 651 is kind of the stronger adhesive and a glossy finish usually. And then there's a 631 that I think is equivalent to this one that's got kind of a matte finish, and it's a little more removable. So Oracal 631 or 651, and I slightly prefer the 651. All right, so now we just need to apply this to our bag. I'm going to get out some transfer tape. And if you're buying the Silhouette brand, it's just called Aura Tape. And if you're buying it straight from Oracal, it has a number and I can't remember, but it's linked in the supply list as an 8 and a 3 in the numbers. Okay, so I just want to make sure it's big enough for my vinyl to cover all of the letters. It has a nice grid on the back. Most transfer tapes and vinyls have a grid on the back, so I could cut that with scissors if I wanted to. Just making it easy using a paper trimmer. All right, and again, I just want to make sure I'm just holding that design in front of it so I know I've got enough to cover the full design. All right, so transfer tape is this magical thing that will let me pick up all those letters at the same time. Instead of picking them each up individually and trying to place them on the bag, we're going to put our transfer tape on there. Okay, so when I'm doing transfer tape, I will usually press it down in the middle first. All right, I got that kind of crooked, but that's okay. I still have all of those letters covered with tape. Smooth it down with a scraper tool. And then we're going to lift it all up at the same time. So my easiest way to do that is to flip it over, and I'm going to peel the backing away. And I like to leave my, or use my scraper tool and just give pressure. Against the transfer tape. And if it's not lifting up, you just go back and make sure you've got it. And sometimes you just kind of leave your scraper tool against those letters to kind of hold them in place. So you're just doing a little bit of back and forth. Smaller designs, if you're a beginner, I suggest smaller designs. And this one's not bad. Once you start working with huge designs, that's a little trickier. So that's not necessarily a beginner project to do huge designs. Start small. Start labeling everything in your house. That's a good way to get used to working with vinyl. Okay, so see how that's all on the transfer tape now. And that sticker is going to want to stick to that surface once I put it on there. I'm going to turn it so I can see it. And I've got this nice grid here that gives me good lines to make that straight. And again, you're kind of trying to press it down in the middle and then smooth it out from the middle outward. And then we'll find the edge of that transfer tape. And again, pull that transfer tape away and make sure you go slow enough that the design stays in place. And you can save this transfer tape. Use that same backing that we had before, because you can use this transfer tape again. I'll save that for the other one that I cut out. So there, I'm gonna make sure, press it down, it sticks there. Isn't that cute? And this zipper pouch is just really nice. I used this one to do a full set of my combo markers I got from Michael's. But a fun, with this saying on there, it's a fun crafty, for you crafty people watching this class. You can use it to store whatever you want. Let's see, do we have any more questions that I can answer?
Oh, people are loving it. Looks great, Kelly.
Okay, is anybody interested in seeing a little bit more, just 2 or 3 minutes more of text? What you can do with text and different fonts, because I showed you just a plain font that you could kind of copy that. But let's go ahead and just, with another minute or two, share my screen. Okay, I'm going to open a new document. I'll just click this little plus symbol to open a new document. And I'm going to use my text tool again. Just there on the left, tap the cursor down on the page. Oops, my caps lock is still on. I just want to make beautiful things. All right, so there is a font. Let's see what it's called. Buttercup Mac. So this is a font you can buy in the Silhouette Design store. So I've got this typed out, and I'm going to go over to my textile panel again. I've actually still got it open, but if you don't have it open, it's over here on the right, another letter A. And I'll just try typing Buttercup Mac. And if I click on that, that is just a really cute little font. Let's see, scroll up just a little bit. Now, if you have, and don't worry about these overlaps, so you can actually weld those together if you have those little overlaps, but you're in Silhouette Studio, it automatically takes fonts that you type, and any overlap, it will do kind of an automatic weld, so it won't cut those little pieces, as long as you're using a current version of Silhouette Studio. You can either weld it yourself, or you can let it do this auto weld function, and you can still edit your text that way. If you have Designer Edition or higher, you can actually change some of these individual glyphs. So here on the textile panel, there's a letter G for this tab, and it'll, if you hover over it, it says glyphs, and it will let you see what else you have available. So let me slide this over to large. Again, this is for if you have Designer Edition or higher, you can use these glyphs. If I scroll down to the bottom, you can get some of these little swoopy letters. So let's say I want to change this letter B to this letter B. I can go double click, so my cursor is here, and I'll backspace, and I'm going to click on this fancier letter B, and now it has, so this is this font in particular. You've got some fancy fonts that will have these extra glyphs, and you kind of have to just read the description in the design store. And then just scroll around in this glyph section. Oh, let's see, I could make a cute G with a little swoopy at the bottom. Yeah, so fun stuff like that, that if you're working with your own text, if you've got a phrase or something that you want to turn into a vinyl design, you can do that with your text. So this is the final version I came up with for this other font. So I added that prettier G. Oh, it looks like I found even a better letter B, and I may have changed that letter T just because, oh, and I was able to get some simpler letter T's up there. So if you want to play around with your text in the software to make just even better vinyl designs with your text, that's an option for you if you have Designer Edition or higher. Do we have any other questions about vinyl, about the Cameo 5, about the software, something that we covered in class? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun, and I hope that you try this project out with vinyl. It's just a really fun thing, and beginner friendly. Always the first time might be a little hard, but just try it a couple of times, and I think you'll really like using vinyl. And thank you so much for joining me.